Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and today we're going to be doing our Should You Buy video for the new RSI Galaxy. Now the Galaxy joins other RSI wedge-shaped ships hailing the Star Destroyer vibes from other RSI ships, such as the Polaris and the Perseus. But the Galaxy is a little bit less battle Dorito and more flexible Dorito than the two previously mentioned ships. The Galaxy is by design a multi-role ship, large in size, able to fulfill a few different gameplay loops by swapping out a modular center section of the ship. One of those modules isn't a combat module though, so the design, while attractive, feels aggressive for a non-combat vessel. The Galaxy is on sale now for a few different ways and in different configurations, so the important thing to start with here at a high level is what you can actually buy currently. First off, much like with the Retaliator, you have a base model ship that doesn't come with any pre-configured middle section, meaning it doesn't really specialize in doing anything. The price on the base Galaxy is $350 war bond or new money, with the standard sale price being $380 if you want to use credit. Now beyond the actual ship itself, you have three modules that are currently for sale. We'll break those down in more detail in a little bit, but they are a cargo module, which is $70, the medical module for $90, and the refinery module for $80. Now, of course, you can buy the Galaxy base plus module of your choice, which they are calling a pre-configured version, with the cargo going for $415 war bond or $450 standard, the medical being $430 or $470 standard, and finally the refinery being $425 war bond and $460 standard sale. The last purchase option here is to do kind of the approach they did with the Endeavor, which is that master kit, giving you the base ship plus all three of the modules, which is going to cost you $530 war bond or $570 standard sale. What that all means is that if you were going to buy the base ship plus all three modules individually with cash, you're saving about $60 by doing so, as it would have cost you $590 to do that. Now, if you just want to buy a pre-configured Galaxy, it's going to save you about $5 to $10 depending on the version that you choose. Now, I am well aware that there are going to be a lot of people that come right out after the description and say that this is a money grab and that by making modules only war bond, it's going to force new money into the game and it's a little bit coercive. And while that may be true to some degree, there are two things to keep in mind. First off, CIG is a business and they are trying to drive up their revenue. So it's important to understand that perspective. You don't have to do anything. Along those lines, the more important thing to note here is that they've already stated that these modules will be available to purchase in the game for UEC. So buying a base Galaxy to start is a viable option, even if you won't be able to specialize in anything at the first release. Or more likely, the first version will be the cargo version, and you'll have to play with that until you can actually buy the modules for your ship. So let's take a quick break from the module talk and just jump into what this ship actually offers and what it is. Size-wise, it's 110 meters long, 60 meters wide, 22 meters tall, which makes it slightly smaller than the Carrack, which comes in at 126 by 72 by 30. The crew size on the Galaxy is 6, which is more likely more than you would really ever need to run with. But the ship has a pretty nice looking bridge, a pilot and 2 crew seats there. One of those seats, or maybe both of them, are going to be designed to operate the remote turrets that are going to provide the offensive and defensive capabilities of the ship. Beyond that, you have an inline hangar that exits the rear of the ship, which is a nice design and something different than the top hangars that we've seen on ships like the Carrack and the 890 Jump. That hangar is known to fit a XXS, a double X small size ship, which would include ship sizes like the Pisces, the 85X, the P-52, P-72, M-50, Razor, and the Argo Cargo. Think about the ships that you can spawn at outposts. That hangar is accessed via the midsection of the ship that will become the swappable module of your choice. My assumption would be that one of the 6 crew members is intended to be the pilot of whatever ship you have in your hangar, leaving 2 to either run around the ship doing engineering or more likely working in the module section doing the job that you select for them. Weapons on the Galaxy are 3 remote turrets, 2 on the sides of the ship, 1 underneath the nose, with 2 size 5 guns on each of them, which is decent protection for the ship. But you have no pilot-controlled guns, meaning that you are relying on having a crew to provide you with combat protection. And this ship is likely not an offensive vessel, instead having decent weaponry to protect you while you're doing its operations. In addition to the turrets, the Galaxy offers 2 missile racks that provide you with a total of 8 size 2 missiles, which is better than nothing, but on a ship of this size, it doesn't really provide you a whole lot of punch either. We're going to compare the weaponry to the Carrack because the Carrack is the most likely competitor for this ship in most people's minds because it does cargo, it has a med bay, it provides a hangar, etc. The Carrack has 1 more turret, but 1 size smaller guns. So you have 8 total size 4 guns instead of 6 size 5s, which means that the Carrack has better placement and firepower overall than the Galaxy does. However, the Carrack does not come with any missiles, so if that is important to you, then the Galaxy is going to get you a point there. The design, aesthetically, of the Galaxy is sharp. It looks familiar while being a little bit unique. There's an elevated bridge that appears to have good visibility, though the front of the ship extends forward a great deal, so you're going to have some lacking visibility beneath your nose, which isn't going to be ideal for landings on planets. The layout of the ship is a little bit of a mystery to me because in Inside Star Citizen they showed some mock-ups, but they didn't really seem to be consistent or play well with the modules. So what I would say is a safe bet is that there's likely going to be an area behind the bridge, and you're going to have a captain's quarters, crew quarters, some sort of storage or armory area, a mess hall. That's what we can probably assume will be there. Beyond that, it's hard to tell because some of the designs seem to show rooms that were expected to be in place. However, where the modules look like they're going to go makes me question if those weren't fleshed out or if the modules replace something that's only on the base model. Time will tell on that one for sure. Another item that's a little bit of a mystery to me is the cargo capacity. We know there's a cargo module, which we're about to talk about, but the base model is said to have an SCU capacity of 64. I don't think the ship has a lift to the module without having a module, and if it did, the capacity would be much higher. So my assumption is, unless there's a room that we haven't seen yet, is that you can either land a ship in the hangar or choose to load cargo in the hangar, and that's your 64 SCU, but I haven't seen that clearly outlined anywhere, so I'm hoping that's a part of the Q&A that we should be getting soon. The components on the Galaxy, according to the stats page, which is a little sketchy to trust and they likely will change during development, are a large radar, a single size 3 shield with 2 large power plants and coolers. You also have 2 large fuel tanks, so that should help you with range when you're not in quantum, in addition to large jump and quantum drives and a single large quantum fuel tank, so you're not really extending your range in quantum by a whole lot, though large tanks do tend to take you quite a long way and are expensive to fill up. From a propulsion perspective, there's 4 main thrusters, which we can see. You have 2 retro thrusters, and then you have 12 gimbaled maneuvering thrusters. Gimbaled thrusters are designed for greater control versus responsiveness that you find on fixed thrusters, so I would not expect the Galaxy to be agile by any means. I also don't see any mention of VTOL, so I would expect that this ship is going to be a pain to get on and off the ground. Going back to compare to the Carrack's single biggest differentiator here is that it has twice the shields. You have 2 size 3 shields compared to the Galaxy, which is a huge perk for the Carrack. It is also worth reminding everyone that the Carrack is intended to be a military Pathfinder ship, and it just costs a lot more money. So that's an okay distinction, but it is one that's worth calling out. On the flip side, though, the Galaxy doubles up where the Carrack has 1 power plant and the Galaxy has 2, which I think is there because it's designed to be able to run the refinery module that will take a lot of power to pull off. If we go back to maneuverability, while the Carrack is larger, it has 22 maneuvering thrusters, so that may give you an idea of the control or responsiveness, with there being a difference of 10 maneuvering thrusters on a ship that isn't really that different in size. So let's take that journey back to the modules now, because this is where I think you're going to find an important difference between the options you have in front of you. First off, with modules, I have a ton of questions and some lack of desire to play in this space. I like the idea, or at least the concept of modules, because more versatility per ship by owning small things that change the way your big ship does things is attractive, in theory. In reality, we have the Caterpillar, the OG, who was sold with modularity in mind. But we haven't seen a single module released for that ship, and it's been stuck as a cargo vessel and only a cargo vessel for a very long time now. Beyond that, we've got the Vanguard with the battlefield upgrade kits, which I have a lot of frustration in how those are implemented, meaning that you get the base model that you chose, but no access to the variants that you own the battlefield upgrade kits for. The Retaliator was originally sold as a torpedo bomber, but then CIG released the base model and then sold modules for that, cargo, personnel transport, dropship. None of those are in the game, so it's still just a bomber, even for those that have the money tied up in those modules. Modules have been managed terribly in the game, and in a game where things happen at the speed of smell, it's hard to spend money and have faith that they're going to give you what you want. I would also caution that this ship isn't slated to be out anytime soon, so even when you do get it, what version will we get? We don't really know, and only time's going to tell, but I'm expecting a long time from now. The last thing about modules is that I have no idea how they are going to be handled long term in the game. Say I have a full galaxy set. My spawn point's at Lorville. I then travel over to Grimhex with a cargo module attached, and then I have a friend that says that they need a refinery in deep space. Well, I can't claim a module today, or even a component individually, so I can't get that module to arrive at Grimhex. So then do I have to travel all the way back to Lorville to equip it? Well, that problem gets worse with multiple systems coming. Also, a giant module like this is going to be a bear to transport even if you can. Is it going to take up multiple segments on a whole E to get the job done? Is there some sort of hand wavium that allows you to fit it into a C2? Is it practical enough to provide the versatility that it claims to give you, or are you too locked down to a segment of space to take advantage of that? There are questions we need answers to because they determine a lot of the overall usability of the ship. So going back to the three modules, we have the cargo module up first. The module has tractor cranes that are used for easily moving your cargo around, and this really feels more like a freight operation versus individual cargo boxes, as the art shows that the Galaxy is carrying the 32 SCU boxes. We know that the SCU on this is going to be 512 SCU, which is 16 of these crates, which is 13 more than the raft can carry, so it is a significant offering of cargo. I also like the 32 SCU crates because they should, in theory, make the loading and unloading time much more appealing, and this ship suddenly becoming a good option for cargo missions in the future seems very likely. In addition to the cranes, you also have a lift that drops to the ground for loading and for allowing vehicles to park in your cargo bay of your ship, offering more versatility but cutting down on your cargo capacity. I doubt we're going to see anything much larger than a rover or two in this space, though, with height likely being the limiting things for things like the Atlas platform from fitting in the ship. The medical module is the one that I find the most attractive of the group, I think, but it offers a lift as well as the that kind of extends to the ground that can help bring patients on board that didn't arrive via the snub, which would come in from the rear of the ship. Interior to the medical module, you have a pretty impressive contingent of the beds. You have 3 Tier 3, which is the lowest, 2 Tier 2s, and 1 single Tier 1 bed. And that also means that while the range may vary between the Tier 1 and 2, you basically have 3 total beds that can provide a respawn ability to the players in the area, or can help to act as a force multiplier for your operations that you have going on in the area, especially when you start pairing that with a ship like the Pisces in the rear to help transport people back to the fight. I didn't personally get the feeling that you can, figure the number of tiers and beds, kind of get that perfect configuration like you can on the Apollo. So I would count that out and say that whatever we have is going to be what you will have tomorrow. The final module to discuss is the refinery module, which is designed to process ore much like refinery decks on stations or like the more, dedicated expanse ship. There is a command module on the starboard side of the ship that's going to be controlling your operations and refining processes, and you have 2 refinery processors that mean that you are able to either run 2 separate jobs asynchronously, or you can run them together and gain efficiency and output. The belly of this module also has hookups to intake ore from a prospector or mole bag, where it extracts the ore and distributes those to the processors via the control panel we have already discussed. So that's the information on the ship, or at least what we know about it so far, which gives us a fair amount to go on. I'm sure a Q&A post will provide more details later, but let's just jump into the should you buy portion of this video. First off, if you want this ship soon and expect to use it for everything, I would hold off, because it's going to be a long time before it's ready. You can take some comfort in knowing that the loaner for this is a Carrack, which is a hell of a ship to use in its stead, but you're not going to be seeing this for a while. I would also say that if you're leery about the modular gameplay as I am, there's a lot riding on that working well to jump into this ship and assume it's going to work well and be efficient versus having a few dedicated ships to do the job you really want. But what I would like to do is look at the modules along with the ship and compare how they fit against others. So we'll start with the Cargo Galaxy, which has cost $415 war bond. If you compare that to the Caterpillar, you have a little less SCU by a little bit, and you're paying almost $100 more for the Galaxy. The Cat's supposed to have legendary modularity, so the Galaxy doesn't quite compare there, or at least we think, considering there are supposed to be other modules coming in the future. So the real distinction here is the planned modularity in addition to the hanger, which is frankly a big perk. You could also buy a whole B for less than $100 and end up carrying almost the same amount of cargo, even though it's a lot less ship and it's much riskier. Overall, there's a lot of ships that can do cargo and do it well, so I would say that you need to balance the price for what it does, and that's how you're going to make your good decision. But the ability to manage the 32 SCU crates is a big perk for me. Personally, I think the Cargo Galaxy is a fair deal of a ship, but doesn't really get me that excited either. It kind of gets an unenthusiastic yes for those that are interested in taking advantage of the large crates and the sleek design. If you're looking at the Refinery Galaxy, we know just so little about this one, and it's hard to really judge. I would say that when you compare the $425 Refinery version to the $150 Expanse, which is a dedicated refinery, it's a little murky at best. The price favors the Expanse by a lot. The Expanse offers 6 dedicated reactors, meaning more job types concurrently. My assumption is that the Galaxy can handle much larger jobs, so it may be more effective at cranking out goods for larger operations. But I also don't know how much storage there is on board the ship for this purpose. Can you only stick it in the hangar, or is that open space in the middle of the module for this purpose? We just don't know yet. I like the Galaxy having larger shields and more durability than something like the Expanse, so the job is better protected with the turrets to help keep things safe. But it is also likely going to be picked up on scopes easier than the Expanse would be. I think the price on the Refinery pre-configured version is too high, where I think you could probably just bring a few Expanses for less money and see better performance, or at least similar enough, along the way with more versatility. So I don't think I would recommend the pre-configured Refinery version. Lastly is the medical version. The pre-configured one comes at $430 and probably is the most cohesive gameplay option of the three, where you could pair a C8R Pisces ambulance in the hangar and help to kind of run search and rescue while working as a mobile respawn facility. Now, if you compare this to the Apollo, that costs $250 and offers almost the same capabilities on a much smaller scale, the Apollo should be faster, cheaper to upkeep, require less crew, and provide almost all the same benefits, minus the ability of bringing its own snub. I much prefer the Apollo to the Medical Galaxy, but when you look at something like the Carrack or the 890, which go for $600 plus, they have hangars of their own that can fit the same snub, they offer only a single-sized or tier 2 bed, then the Galaxy becomes a lot more appealing. I would personally say that I think if you're looking at the Apollo as a dedicated ship, it makes sense that it performs better. Overall, I think if you like the ability of doing the ambulance hospital pairing, then I like the Galaxy, but not more than the Apollo. The tough comparison here is finding something that this ship really compares to. The Carrack, which costs $600, offers cargo and medical plus exploration, which the Galaxy doesn't do by default, meaning that you are choosing a module that you want to play with at the moment, versus always having that versatility that you would have on something like the Carrack. And that comes at a much greater cost, and you don't get the refinery option. But it's just a lot more ship overall. I think for me, if I'm going to spend $530 on the full pack, I would rather spend that, $250 on the Apollo, $150 on the Expanse, which, really covers you on the refinery and medical gameplay, and I think we'll do it better. And then I think, considering something that's a little bit smaller scale for a cargo hauler, like the Raft, or even rolling the dice on a whole seat. There's just too many unknowns about the modules for me to give the whole kit a yes and, say you should buy it. I think there is if there's a pre-configured version that you love and you're just hoping that the modules are great in the future, then, great. I think it's a safe buy now, knowing that you'll be able to pick up the other stuff later in the game. But getting it all now and waiting a long time for the ship, that's a whole lot less appealing to me. So that's it for this video. I hope you all got some good insight into what this ship is and how it stacks up against other ships in the game. If you have thoughts or questions, please get them into the comments. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and take care.